Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly DVMUG meeting. Today's Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. I have a couple of three news items followed by some videos, and at the end, we'll have a question and answer session. So please hold your questions till the end and then just let loose with questions. I'm Bruce, and I will be your MC today. The links, as John just said, have been put up on DVMUG BBS. John also put them on Zoom chat, so you can go and take a look at it there instead of going to the BBS. For those of you not having a BBS account, please get a hold of John or Ann if you're having problems. If you do, those links will be there, and you can click on one of the attachments and choose your reading material. This meeting is recorded, and later on will be available on YouTube. Later today will be available on YouTube. So, wasting no more time, um, we will proceed to the news. And here we go. Uh, One thing I want to stress is do your updates. I later on will share an experience I've ran into yesterday, but please update your stuff so you don't run into problems like I did yesterday. This is from Tidbits. You can now migrate purchases between your Apple accounts. Tell you the truth, I don't have multiple Apple accounts. But for those of you that do, you'll be able to take your apps and music and other contents and move it to the other account. Apparently, we've been asking for this, or those of us that have multiple accounts have been asking for this for decades. Finally, it's taken effect. Apple is instituting a change that'll make you able to move your stuff back and forth. And the next one, or I'm sorry, if anybody out there with dual Apple accounts have any questions or comments about this? If not, let's move on to the next one. This is also from Tidbits. Apple replaces the iPhone SE with a larger, more expensive iPhone 16e. Yes, the SE has been replaced and it's not going to come back. What you're looking at on the bottom is the top link is to the tidbits that gives you a whole bunch of information. The bottom one over there is to another news site that'll give you what's actually missing from the iPhone 16e. So I would encourage you to read both because there's a lot of writing about this, and some are against and some are for. And depending on what you need or what your needs, you're gonna have to make up your mind if you're getting a new phone. So it's a good read. It takes some time to digest all that stuff, but it's all there. And anybody with questions regarding that new phone coming out today? Well, if not, we'll talk about it later on. So let's move on. This one is something I'm not fan of. Apple actually wants to put ads in maps. So I can only imagine if they're going to start adding ads, you can be driving down the road looking for an address, and all of a sudden there's going to be an ad for some restaurant or something else. I don't quite appreciate that, but they're looking at that. It's basically all about money. Again, that's a good read down there. You can, when you have time, just read about it,
A question.
and we can also talk about it later on if there are no questions.
Well, I have a question. They want to put it in, or are they considering putting them in?
I read that they are considering to
Yeah,
adding ads to maps.
yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's going to actually take effect when you're driving or how, but that's all I can imagine that once you're using it, somehow be based on where your location is, they're going to find ads for that particular restaurant and probably show it to you. But
Waze
again,
used to do that. Waze used to do
right,
that.
and they stopped, right?
I don't know. I
So
haven't used Waze in years.
yeah, it's it's something to think about. But those, like Bob Dylan once said, the times they are changing. And I'm quoting, so it's changing. Next is this. Apple removes advanced data protection in England. Um, I you're not seeing it, but there is another link on the uh on the on the on the news list. This is from the link underneath there is from Macworld. The other one is from BBC. It needs, if you have time, you need to read about it and what the applications are to for the rest of the world. If it starts in England, where is it going to end up, and what did England actually want? And Apple can promise by taking or retaliated or made a move by removing advanced protection for UK. So it's again something to read and think about. I don't know if anybody has questions out there, but I worry about stuff like that starting in one country and the next thing you know, everybody else is asking for the same thing.
They've tried to do it here too, but Apple held them off because the truth of the matter is if you let a door into anybody, you have now let a door into everybody. Stuff like this is either secure or it's not. And if it's got a back door, it's not.
And matter of fact, let me add on to that. England actually asked for a backdoor, asked Apple for a backdoor to all of its iCloud data. And according to what I read, Apple said no, and they just took off the advanced security.
I'm wondering now if I travel to Britain and I want to do some banking or something, is it automatically off the minute I cross into British airspace, or
I'm going to
what?
defer that one to John. I have no idea at this point. This is something that just came out, I think. John, any ideas? Okay. I guess we'll talk about it later on, but this is not sitting well with me. Uh, so let's go on with some videos. This is what bench batch renaming was what took me the longest period of time, and it had to do with my taxes and renaming the information I put out there that I had to resort to actually writing uh, automated script to do this kind of stuff. But I figured this is another way of doing it. So let's see what Gary says about how to do, and is this any easier than what I started? So here it is. It, it's not all that long.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me show you how to use the batch rename tool on your Mac. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There, you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now, if you want to rename a single file on your Mac, you can do that pretty easily by simply selecting the file. If you click on it a second time or press the return key, it enters rename mode and you can type a new name. You could also, with a file selected, go to File and then Rename, and it enters that same rename mode. But what if you want to batch rename some files? You want to change all of their names, maybe adding something to them or numbering them. Well, you can do that using the same menu item. The trick is to first select multiple files. So here in List View, I can click to select this first file here and then Shift click to select more. I can even Command click to select or deselect others. Or alternatively, if I just want to rename all the files in this folder, I can use Command A or Edit Select All to select all the files. Now that I have multiple files selected, I can use the batch rename tool by going to File, and notice that Rename now has 3 dots after it. That means that a dialog is going to appear if I select this. It won't just do something on its own. And if I use it, you can see I get to the Rename Finder Items tool or the Batch Rename tool. Now there are 3 modes for the Batch Rename tool. There's Replace Text, Add Text, and Format. Let's start with the simplest, Replace Text. It has 2 fields here, Find and Replace With. So I can find some text that may be in one or more of these file names and replace it with something else. So for instance, I can type photo and then replace with picture. And notice here it gives me an example. It shows that one of these files will be renamed as picture1.jpg. So I get an idea of what's going to happen. And notice that these files are different. They have different numbers after them. They've got different extensions. Here's one that's HEIC. But in all of them that are selected, it's going to change the word photo to the word picture. So if I click rename, you can see it changes all of them there. Now there are a lot of tricks you can do with this. For instance, you can add spaces. So I can look for photo, replace with picture, plus a space. And you can see how I got a nice little space there. I could also look for extensions instead. So let's say if I want to change .jpeg to .jpg, I can do that and it will change those. But the ones that don't have it in it, it won't make any change at all. So look at the HEIC file there and you can see that doesn't change. Now before we move on to the next mode, I want to show you that you can undo a batch rename like this. So even though I've made multiple changes here, I can simply use Edit, Undo, or Command Z, and you can see how it undoes the batch rename. So as long as you do that immediately afterwards, you can fix a mistake. If you thought you were changing it to one thing and then you realize it made a mistake and it changed hundreds of files, Command Z will take you back to how they all were named before. Now let's look at the next mode. The next mode is Add Text. So this simply adds some text to the existing name. So right now it's blank and you could see as an example it shows photo1.jpg, this first file right there. If I were to add something like my, you could see how it would change it. It would put the word my afterwards. Or I could switch to before. And then I could add, say, a space right there. So you can see how I could add my space to the beginning of each one of those. So I can rename like that. Now let's look at the last mode, Format. So what Format will do is either replace the name or add something to the name. So the first thing you need to decide is the type of format. You can have name and index, name and counter, or name and date. So name and index puts a number after the file name. So here's the custom format is the word file with a space after it. And you can see it's going to put an index. So file space 1.jpg. I could switch to have the format go before the name. So it puts the 1 before the word file. And I can have the number start at something else. So I can have them start, say, at 100 like this, or maybe better yet, 101. Now if I rename, notice how it changes all of them. And it does it for all the files, keeping their file extension. So now I start with file 101 and I continue on. It's not taking anything from the old name. So these files could have been A, B, C, and D, and now they'd be called file 101 to file 104. Now note you can change custom format to whatever you want. So I can put, say, picture, and I've still got that space after there like that. If I were to eliminate this, not have anything there, it keeps the file name that's there now. So the first one will be photo1 space 1. If I rename, you can see it keeps all the original names, adds a space, and then the format, or the index in this case. Now the next name format option is name a counter, which puts a bunch of zeros before the number. Now on Macs, you don't really need to have all the zeros before in order for things to be sorted correctly in the Finder. But some other devices might, like maybe you're making a USB stick of these photos to show them on some TV that you can plug a USB stick in, and then it will list the photos. And you find that it works better if you pad a bunch of zeros to it. So you have the ability to do that. And the last format here is name and date. So it's going to put a date format like this afterwards. Unfortunately, this is not very useful as it's giving all files the same name because it's using the current time right now, not the creation or modified time for the file. So it really has limited use. Maybe if you had a folder filled with a bunch of different types of files and you wanted to rename all those with the current time right now for archiving. And here's a tip that most people don't know. You can rename files using an index and set it to a specific order by selecting the files in that order. So for instance, let's say I want to take the first 4 photos here. Make it easier to see, I'm going to go to View Options and enlarge the icons there like that. So now I want this to be the first photo, this to be the second, third, and fourth photo like that. So the opposite order. So all I need to do is select the first one, then Command click to select the second, then Command click on the third, and Command click on the fourth. I could do it in any order I want. So I can, add another one here as the fifth if I want. Now I want to go to File, Rename, and I want to use the format, name and index. I'll start at 1 in this case, and I'm going to give it a new name. I don't want to go and use photo because as it renamed each one, it's going to conflict with ones that were before. In other words, when it tries to rename photo 4 to photo 1, it's going to see photo 1's already there and it's not going to work as you would expect. So instead, I'm going to say picture and give it a space afterwards. Well, now I'm going to rename like that. And now alphabetically, picture comes after photo, and I could see it's renamed them all picture 1 to picture 4, but it's done it in the order in which I selected them, not the order they were listed here in the Finder. So batch rename can also be a handy way to manually reorder files in a folder. So this is a pretty basic batch rename tool. It's very useful in a lot of cases, but for more complex things, you're going to either have to use the terminal or perhaps a shortcut. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
So, hope that wasn't too long. Any questions? What got me, if I may, into this was I some time ago had cobbled together a file list, and I used it for specific purposes. In this case, taxes. Well, it worked. I don't know what happened, but this year it didn't work. It just wouldn't work. It would. So I had all this extra stuff to take off from the beginning of the files that I sent to my text professional, so they wouldn't get messed up and everything. And I couldn't make the software work. And I said, well, there's got to be a way. So I started digging, and I found this. And I couldn't believe that this was this easy. I mean, I had to physically go over and say, remove this and replace it with that. But it took me next to nothing, and I was able to send my data. So that's my story. Anybody else? This is a real handy tool. I never used it till this year, and it's a real handy piece of work that bailed me out this year. Anyway, that's if you have like thousands or of renaming pictures and that kind of stuff. Yes, John.
I've been using for years something called Adobe Bridge, which is really designed for dealing with Adobe files, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, but it works with any file in the Finder. It has a batch rename command that's very similar. Actually, it's more sophisticated. There's more criteria. And you can say all these, like you find and replace or sequence number, or, you know, take this whole, you can do all kinds of things in there. And it's a free program. You have to make a Adobe account, but that's free, and Bridge is free, and it's updated every year. I love it for photos.
But I have to stress, I mean, I have to reiterate, it was easier than I ever thought. It was easier to just go and replace it, delete what I wanted. In other words, I copied and pasted it and deleted it with blanks, and it just came out perfect. It's a good piece of software as far as I'm concerned. Bailed me out, in other words. Well, the next one is how to tame your Apple Notes by using sections. Now, I'm not a prolific user of Apple Notes, but it's interesting, and I'd like to figure out what he's really talking about. If it makes my life easier, I want to do it. So here goes. Let's see what he's got, what Gary's got to say to us.
Gary with MacMost here. Let's take a look at using sections in Notes. So a new feature in macOS Sequoia and iOS 18 and iPadOS 18 is the ability to have collapsible sections in Notes. So in Notes here, your first line is typically your title. And this is usually in a large, bold font. Then immediately, the second line is just some regular text, and it's in a non-bolded, regular-sized font. But as you go through the note, you can have your own headings by simply clicking here and then assigning the style heading to it. And then once you have a heading, then you can continue to add more to the note. So headings look nice, but they also serve a function, and that's to define sections. Let me add a few more headings and some text under them. So here you can see I've got all these different headings, and I've called them first section, second section, and so on. Of course, you would use a more descriptive heading depending upon what the content of your note was. Now, the space between headings, this right here, is a section. It's automatic. You don't have to define it as a section. You just have two headings, and then whatever's between them will be a section. Now, you don't have to do anything with these sections. You can just use them to make your notes look nice. A special thing you can do with these sections is you can collapse them. So to do that, just move your pointer over the heading, and notice you have this little arrow that points down. This is traditionally called a disclosure triangle, although it's not really a triangle. It's just kind of this little arrow that hangs out to the left, and you only see it when you move your pointer over the heading. You can click this, and it will turn to, instead of pointing down, it'll now point to the right. And this section is collapsed. It's all still there. You can click again right here, and it will expand to reveal everything that's there. And you can do that for any section. So for instance, this one here. Also notice that you can do it for subheadings. If you look under formatting styles, you'll see that you've got title, heading, and subheading. Heading and subheading are the main ways you create sections. So I can collapse this subheading here like that. I've even got this section right here where I've got two subheadings under a main heading. I can collapse each one of these, or both of them if I like, to make everything a little bit more compact, like that. And here's how they work on the iPhone. You could see the same way. Basically, you create these headings here, and then you can tap to collapse sections just like on the Mac. And it works the same way on the iPad as well. By the way, if you find these videos useful, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. Read about it right here. Now note there's some keyboard shortcuts you can use here. First, to make sections, you can use the keyboard shortcut Shift Command H for heading, and Shift Command J for subheading. On US keyboard, the J key is just to the right of the H key, so it's easy to remember. Just use those two. You can also use a keyboard shortcut to collapse and expand sections. So I've got the cursor blinking here in the line that contains the heading. I can go to View, and I have Collapse Section, Option, Command, and left arrow. So if I use that, you can see how it collapses the section. It only works if the cursor is blinking in the heading. For instance, if I put it here in the section, I can't use that. You do have the ability to collapse all sections and expand all sections. Just use Shift in addition to those other keys. So Shift, Option, Command, and then left arrow collapses all of the sections. And Shift, Option, Command, and right arrow expands all the sections. One limitation of sections is that they continue until the next heading. So for instance, here I've got this heading formatting line here, a subheading and another subheading. If I were to put more text here, we may want this to be just part of this main section here and not part of these subsections. But if I collapse this, it collapses everything until the next heading. Another thing to know about is copy and paste works a little funny. Like for instance, if I want to take this whole second section here and move it to the end, I can do that by just selecting everything just like normal and using Command X. If I collapse this section, I can select this entire line here. I'm going to triple click to do that. Then do Command X to copy the whole section. And then I can go down here and I can Command V to paste. And it pastes the whole section. But that's the simplest way to do it. But sometimes it doesn't work quite as well. So try it, but always remember that Command Z for undo is your friend if things go wrong. Now this is really useful for making your notes more compact. For instance, if this information here isn't something you really need, you can collapse that section there and leave it collapsed and have your note like that, knowing that there are more details under here. This is really useful for lists too. So you can have a list like this and put some items, and let's turn this into a bullet list. And then what I could do here with this line is I could turn this into a subheading. And now I can nicely collapse that list to get it out of the way. One thing to know is you can also use lines formatted as a title to collapse a section. It won't work if there's just one. You have to have a second one. So I can have another title here, and let's format that as title. And now both of these title sections can be collapsed. So you actually do have three formats that can be used for collapsing sections if you want. Another thing you do with this is have fewer notes. I hear a lot from people that have hundreds of different notes and it's getting a little unwieldy. Well, you can use this to combine notes. So for instance, instead of having one note per meeting, you can have a note like this. You could see here, you could have basically 3 notes in one, or just keep going with the notes. So you can have like all your work meetings that you may have had separate notes for before, all under one note. And you could just collapse all of the ones you aren't using. Also note that collapsible sections only work in notes that are stored in iCloud or on your Mac. They don't work in other note systems, like if you have a Google account set up with the Notes app.
Oh, that's notes and sections.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I usually write a whole note and start another one and so on and so on. So, but it's good to know that you can have one single note and a whole bunch of sections.
Yeah,
So,
I use the Notes app a lot, and it's gotten unwieldy, trying to find where did I put that note. So this is useful. I'm going to work on getting my notes organized.
Yeah, I used it as well, and particularly in preparing for my monthly class over at the senior center. I'll see little tidbits, things that I might want to include in my class notes, and just drop them in. And it's great for having, I don't have to say, gee, I wonder where that article was on so-and-so.
I've switched over to using Pages instead since it's on all the devices and it has more power.
Yeah, but it becomes a document rather than something convenient like notes that is so flexible.
What makes it inconvenient?
Is that a question or a statement?
That is a question.
I just find notes lends itself more to that sort of casual inclusion. And I guess also because the notes, there are less notes than there are documents. And it's easier to navigate for me.
Okay.
Well, it's good to know that other people do use that. So I have notes, but like I said, each note is a note, and I start another one. So anyway, yes, Jan, you're muted.
Sorry. The thing I like best about notes is the quick note. Does everybody know how you can make it show up in the lower right corner of your screen when you have just, oh my God, I got to get that URL or something instantly, and just slap it somewhere so you don't lose it. It's really good for that.
Oh, that's another option, I guess. Not familiar with quick notes, but yeah, I heard that you can automatically just create one and
There may be a setting for it, but I just put my cursor in the farthest lower right bottom of the screen, and the corner of one shows up, and then you can click on it and make it a window in your screen.
well, that's good. Anything that helps is good. So,
Yeah.
well, anyway, if no one has any more questions, next video we've got is using Apple Intelligence Image Wand to, I guess, alter your or enhance your photos. And here is again, Gary is going to let us know how to use it.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let's take a look at the new Apple Intelligence Image Wand feature of your iPhone and iPad. So among the new Apple Intelligence image creation features, Image Playground gets the most attention. It works on the iPhone, iPad, and Mac, and is a full app in and of itself, as well as something you could access in other apps like Messages. Genmoji is also something people talk about, where you can create your own little emoji characters and use them as inline text in messages and emails. But there is another image creation option. It's called Image Wand. It's only on the iPhone and iPad, and keep in mind you need to have an iPhone or iPad that is capable of using Apple Intelligence. So make sure your iPhone and your language and region are compatible, and look for Apple Intelligence in Settings. Make sure that's turned on, and then you should be able to use Image Wand. It's a feature inside the Notes app. So it basically lets you create some images in the Notes app. Let's start with this simple note here. I've actually added some text to this note already, and let's say I want to generate an image. You can use Image Wand with just some text in a note like this. The way to start using it is first go to the drawing tools, which you'll see here at the bottom. It's not the Apple Intelligence button, but the drawing tools button. And then you'll see the various different pens you can use to draw. You're going to see different things if you're using an iPad. I'm showing this on an iPhone. Now, the Image Wand is this new drawing tool right here. You can select that and then just go to a blank space in the note and then take your finger and use it to make a circle like you're using a magic wand, like that. And what it's going to do is it's going to take the text in your note and use that as a starting point. You could see it there as one of the little idea bubbles to the left. I know sometimes when you do a bullet list or a checklist, it puts individual items in individual little bubbles like that. Sometimes it groups them all together, but it's going to try to create something based on that. So here you could see a variety of different images I could flip through like this that include all of those different ideas that were there. You can see the cocktails there. You can see the pool. You can see the mountains. You're going to get different ones. You can keep flipping through them and have it generate more and more and more. By the way, if you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. Now you can add more to the description here. So for instance, if I thought it'd be nice in this picture to actually have a sunset, I can add that in and done. And it's going to add a second idea over here. And then it's going to include a sunset in the images it creates. You could also tap this plus button here and then choose a style. And in Image Wand, you actually have 3 styles to choose from, more than in Image Playground. So you've got the sketch style, which is going to be the default. You can also go to the illustration, which is something that you've got in Image Playground, or you can go to the animation style like that and get ones using that style. So you can play around with those different styles. You can play around with adding more ideas for the image here. You can remove ideas by tapping the little minus button. You've got this button here that you can tap, and you could copy this image, share it. You could save it out. You can cancel and just erase the image, or you could tap done here and it will use the image there in the note. And let's try using Image Wand a different way. This time I'm going to use the tools here and I'm going to choose a pen tool. And I'm going to draw something with my finger. Of course, on an iPad, you would probably use an Apple Pencil. Now, I'm not very good at drawing, which may be the whole point of Image Wand here, but I'm just going to draw a little scene like this. I'm going to put maybe a little cottage here with a door. I'm going to put a palm tree like this, and maybe put a sun on this side like that. So pretty bad at drawing, but now I could tap the Image Wand at the bottom like that. And now I could circle this image here like that. And then sometimes it'll start right away. Sometimes it'll prompt you for more information. So I want to define cottage, beach, sun, palm tree. And I could do these as separate individual items. I'm just going to do them as one here. And you can see it's using my drawing as the idea on the left, and then it's using my words on the right there. I can add more, certainly, but notice what it did here. It created an image and it did follow along with my drawing. You can notice how the palm trees are on the right, the sun is on the left, for instance. And the cottage more or less looks like what I drew, which is probably not what a beach cottage would look like anyway. And I could flip through the different images here and see what else it comes up with. You can see it even has rays coming out of the sun following along with my drawing. I could add more to the description. I could change the style. Let's change to an animation style here. And then if there's an image that I like this, I can tap done, and there I go. Now, like Image Playground and Genmoji, there are limitations to this, and the most notable one for Image Wand is it doesn't seem to handle people. Like, you can't draw a stick figure and have it create a person. It doesn't handle faces or anything like that. It seems to be more for drawing scenes and objects. You are able to do some things, like here I've described a robot, for instance, and you could see the 3 things there for the description. So if I use Image Wand for this, you could see it's going to come up with something based on those bullet items there. So there you go. I can flip through here and have it generate more. Sometimes it's a little puzzling what it creates, but you can see on the third one there, it does get humanoid looking robot with a tuxedo and carrying a serving tray. Now let's look at some more things that you could do here with this. I'm going to tap done here, and notice it works out as a drawing, so I can resize it pretty easily. You can't really do that with photos. I've got the ability to duplicate and delete it. I can also use this button right here to go back in to Image Wand and change the image to something else. So let me go with this one, and I want to demonstrate another thing that you could do here is you can tap and hold on this and then tap the 3 dots here, and you get your basic cut, copy, paste, duplicate, and all of that. But you also have remove background, which is something you could do with images as well. But sometimes it's useful in Image Playground because I get rid of the stuff it drew in the background and just have the object there. You can, of course, also add another sketch to this. So I can go back in now to the tools and I can draw more. And I could add other things like, for instance, I could add stickers. I could add shapes, like perhaps like an arrow, like that, and continue to add more to the note like that. Now I can also draw to add to this. So let's say I want to try to get a robot from the side. So I can kind of draw like this, maybe create a nose like that with a single eye, and then some shoulders, and then maybe holding the tray like this. You can see how bad that is, but with that description and image wand, in that case it didn't grab my text in the note, but I could do robot holding tray and see what it comes up with. And you can see it doesn't have the robot anymore. Based on it's pointing over in one direction. And you can see I get a few variations on that as well. I like this one. So done. And there I go. That's a look at Image Wand, another way to create images using Apple Intelligence. So keep in mind, just like other AI utilities out there, I expect this to develop rapidly over the next few years. So we'll probably end up with better results and more features as well. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
There's AI for us, huh? We can doodle on a piece of paper and come up with something like that. Any comments or questions?
It's too bad it doesn't deal with people.
Yeah. It does robots, but no people.
Yeah, I wonder why that decision was made.
People would be interesting.
I have a feeling the people issue is something that concerned people about the intelligence applications all around, that people would start making faces of people and imitating people that didn't really do things and stuff. In other words, do a lot of crappy stuff with Apple Intelligence that would harm people.
Yeah, I think Apple said Apple did an interview with when it first came out with Craig what's his name? Craig Figuerini. Said Apple's being really conservative about that kind of stuff, editing pictures of people, because they want to, you can make bad stuff.
Yeah, lately, there've been people out there using drawing tools to come up with some ugly stuff on the web. I mean,
They also exclude any trademarked or copyrighted material. You can't say show me holding an Apple computer.
oh, really? Yeah. Well, kind of a safety thing, I guess. Why invite some stuff you're going to have to deal with later on? This way you just...
Lawsuit prevention.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people are good at this. The first thing that's going to go out there is somebody come up with something that somebody else doesn't like. And anyway, so that's Image Wand. Nice little, I wonder if you can, I guess you can pick it up and put it on an invitation card and that kind of stuff. So, like the first one with the little shack on the beach. It's kind of benign. But so that's that. Next one we have serious stuff like how and why to use safe mode on a Mac. And you just have problems, I guess. So this is again Gary telling us how to safely use safe mode.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let's take a look at using safe mode on your Mac. So safe mode is a special mode that you can get to by restarting your Mac in a special way. It can help sometimes solving some problems with your Mac. Most likely, if you're looking to boot into safe mode, it's because you've read somewhere or been told by somebody in a support role that booting into safe mode may fix a problem you're having. Booting into safe mode actually does 3 different things. First, it will run some diagnostics when you boot into safe mode. And if it finds any problems, it may actually just automatically fix those. So just booting into safe mode and then booting back into normal mode may actually fix some things. Second, it will reset some caches used by certain processes on your Mac. Doing that may also just automatically fix things that may be wrong. And third, when you boot into safe mode, your Mac isn't going to load third-party extensions and things that run in the background. And it won't load some other things, like for instance, any non-system fonts. This allows you to check your Mac very easily to determine whether the problem you're having is with the hardware or your base system, or with something that you have installed. Now first, before you reboot your Mac into safe mode, something you want to try is just doing a normal restart of your Mac. That actually does check for some problems and may fix things. So you just want to try a normal restart and see if whatever problem you're having is still there. If that doesn't work, then you can boot into safe mode in one of two ways, depending on if you have a newer Apple Silicon Mac or an older Apple Intel Mac. If you're unsure, you can check this by going to the Apple menu and then About This Mac. Then look and see what it says for chip. If you see anything with an M, like M1, M2, M3, or so on, then you have Apple Silicon. If instead you see the word Intel, that means you have an older Mac with an Intel processor. By the way, if you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. So if you have an Apple Silicon Mac, to boot in safe mode, what you want to do is first shut down your Mac. Then you want to start it up by pressing and holding the power button. On MacBooks, that will be a key on the keyboard. On other Macs, like for instance on a Mac Mini, it's a button on the actual device. You want to continue holding the power button until you see loading startup options. Then you can release the power button and wait for it to finish. Now you should see a list of the drives you have attached to your Mac. Probably just the one drive, Macintosh hard drive, or perhaps you've renamed it. You want to click on it and you'll see underneath it a button for restarting your Mac using that drive. But what you want to do now is hold the Shift key down and you'll see it will change to indicate that you can start in safe mode. So with the Shift key held down, you want to click and now it's going to boot in safe mode. So now you want to wait for it to reboot in safe mode. You may have to enter your Mac account password twice. I think the first time it's for File Vault and the second time is to actually log into the account. And if you want to check whether or not you've successfully booted into safe mode, you can go to the Apple menu and then go to the first item but hold the Option key down. And now this will take you to System Information. Go and select Software on the left. And once you do, there's a spot on the right that shows you which mode you're booted into, and it should say Safe. Now once you're in safe mode, don't try to do any actual work. Don't try to open up any of your regular documents. Instead, try to recreate the problem. For instance, if you're seeing a problem with Finder windows, open up a Finder window or two and see if the problem occurs in safe mode. If the problem you've been experiencing doesn't happen in safe mode, now you know that it's not a hardware issue and it's not an issue with the operating system. It's got to be an issue with something you've installed on your Mac. But what you don't know at this point is whether booting into safe mode has actually fixed the problem by running diagnostics and clearing out caches. So the next thing you want to do, regardless of whether the problem is there or not, is to restart your Mac and let it boot in normal mode. Now, if you experience the problem in safe mode, it's probably still there in regular mode. And at this point, you want to contact support at your company's school or call Apple support for home users and try to get to the bottom of it. But if the problem wasn't there in safe mode, but now it's back again when you're using your Mac regularly, now you need to investigate further. For instance, go into System Settings and under General, look for Login Items and Extensions. So here's the items that will automatically launch when you log into your account. And below that, you'll see third-party apps that will launch in the background. It's most likely something here that is causing the problem. So what you want to do is a process of elimination, turning different things off, restarting and seeing if the problem's still there. Once you've identified that one of these items is actually causing the problem, you can contact support for that company and find out maybe if there's an update or something you can do to alleviate the problem, or uninstall the software if you don't need it anymore. Another useful technique that's similar to safe mode is to create a separate user account. You go into system settings and then look for users and groups. And here you can add a user and you can create another user that's just you. Just give it a temporary name and then set it up. And it'll basically be a default account. Everything's set to default. There shouldn't be any apps or extensions running when you log into this account. If the problem doesn't happen with this account, but still happens with your main account, then it's just a matter of finding out what is running in your main account that isn't running in this new default account that is causing the problem. You can go to this page at Apple's site for more details about safe mode. You also find information on this page on how to start in safe mode if you're using an older Intel Mac. Basically what you do is you hold the shift key down while booting your Mac and it will go right into safe mode and show you there at the top of the screen. So there's how to use safe mode on your Mac. It won't solve any and all problems that you have, but it will help in some situations. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
So there's how to use safe mode. This Jan had problems with her laptop, and we were talking about trying to get her into safe mode to find out if that worked. And I don't know. Jan, did it work?
I don't think so. Apple had me do that too. I should try it again. I've been really dragging my feet because I can't stand to give up the computer.
And I know what you mean. So, yeah, but that's one way to find out if the thing where it doesn't happen in safe mode, or shouldn't be happening and it's happening when you regularly boot up. Something is causing it.
Trouble is I can't make my problem happen. It does it when it feels like it.
Yeah, nothing's that easy. But it's a tool. It's a tool that you got to get into two different ways, depending on yours is M1, so it's the latest version, and the older ones are differently to get into safe mode. Anyway, anybody else says anything regarding that?
It's too bad he didn't explain about running diagnostics once you're in safe mode, because that would be a worthwhile thing to do for troubleshooting.
Yeah. To run and find out what's...
Well, tell us about it.
It's one of the options when you're in safe mode, when you look at the menu, to run the diagnostic there. Run
diagnostics. Yeah. So it does anything from running the fans to the screen to data read and data write and all kinds of stuff like that. I don't know if it does anything with how the keyboard functions, but it does a whole bunch of stuff. Well, okay. I have one more video, and this has to do with the newest and the greatest, the new iPhone 16e and everything you want to know about it. So here we go. This is the whiz-bang new iPhone that we're about to get that's really expensive also.
There's a new iPhone available, and despite its cheap price tag, it's very compelling. Here's what's new on the 2025 iPhone 16e. Before we get too deep into why this phone will be so popular, if you want to keep up to date with the latest Apple news, please hit that subscribe button. Well, it's official. The iPhone 16e, as it's being called, has been rumored for a while, and much of what I covered ahead of time came true. Honestly, if you want a new phone on a budget, this may be the phone that you're looking for. I'll talk about your alternative options at the end though. Starting out, the design has in fact been upgraded from the outdated iPhone 8 to a more recent iPhone 16/iPhone 14. Even though it's technically based on the iPhone 14, the flat sides, glass back look very familiar to any of the modern phones, including the iPhone 16. The volume rocker has a new action button above them that can be programmed to any number of tasks, though the camera control will remain exclusive to the iPhone 16 line. The display has increased from this paltry 4.7 inch to 6.1, and it's now OLED, though no always-on display. You also notice the home button and Touch ID have been banished, being replaced instead by Face ID and a notch. The charging port was upgraded to USB-C, finally able to be sold in the EU again, and the Lightning port is gone. For longtime viewers of the channel, you remember me talking about my sponsor ESR and their latest iPhone 16 cases. Starting just with the classic, this is your traditional clear case. Well, now they've updated those cases with a pretty important new feature. Now they have full coverage of the camera control. It's made of 9H hardened glass, which makes it super smooth and retains all the functionality, such as light presses and swipes. Compared to others, they've also managed to make it basically seamless, meaning no dust can get in around the edges to hamper the case or damage the button below. There are only a few cases out there that offer protection for the camera control on the iPhone 16 line. With Apple charging literally up to $749, it's probably a good idea to protect it. And of course, they have the same protection as before and the same adjustable metal stash stand built into the camera guard that even works with MagSafe accessories at the same time. If you want to try the ESR Halo Lock Classic Hybrid case with cover for the camera control, I put a link in the description. Internally on this phone, Apple moved to the A18 chip. That's the same found in the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus, released only a few months ago. That is Apple's trend here on the budget phones, reusing the housing and design from a few generations back, but putting in more modern silicon to keep it powerful. It also has more RAM this year because it needs Apple Intelligence. I know the state of Apple Intelligence right now, and I do think that it is improving. Right now we have AI summaries, Genmoji, ChatGPT integration. It's all nice, but not worth upgrading for on its own. With the upcoming iOS 18.4 update, where we'll get, hopefully an even more powerful Siri, it's starting to turn a corner. More features will be coming too with iOS 19. We just don't know what they are yet. To keep up to date with all that, make sure you're subscribed because of course I'm going to be covering it here on the channel. Lastly here, Apple has a new 48 megapixel rear facing camera. This is one of the ways Apple limits this phone compared to the others. You lose out on the ultra-wide lens found on the 16 and the telephoto lens found on the Pros. I'll tell you though, most people use just that standard wide lens. The ultra-wide and tele lenses aren't used nearly as much. For most photos, this one camera is the important one. Don't fret too much about that. Apple also says you get things like 2x optical quality zoom from that sensor, which while not as good as a real telephoto lens, is at least something. So, should you buy the new iPhone 16e? Realistically, you have 3 options here that I'd recommend, but carrier deals also make it complicated. I can't say get this phone if your carrier is offering an iPhone 16 or 16 Pro for free, and it's something that you're willing to do. Assuming you don't have those deals and looking at the real price, I think the iPhone 16e is a fantastic choice. It's the power of the iPhone 16 at a much lower price tag. Apple has distilled this down into what's most important with a new, larger OLED display, Face ID, MagSafe, USB-C, Apple Intelligence, which will hopefully one day be more valuable to users than it is now. If you want to spend a little more, you could go with a great condition iPhone 15. I have seen them for around not much more than this iPhone 16e. Technically, the iPhone 16e is more powerful though, and has Apple Intelligence for less. The biggest trade-off is that single camera. Your third option would be jumping all the way to that iPhone 16, but it's going to be notably more expensive. And you could have just done that already. You could go and get that before the 16e was announced. No matter your choice, this was sorely needed. The iPhone SE 3 was dated, and Apple should not have left this thing on the market for as long as it has. I've had a few friends of the older generation get swindled into buying a SE 3, and it's just so very far behind in 2025. Yes, this new phone has a slightly dated body, but come on, not like iPhones really change their shape that much year to year. Let me know if you're going to be picking one of these up down below in the comments. Subscribe for more videos, and I'll catch you next time.
Oh, there we go. iPhone 16e. Now, somebody straighten me out. I thought it didn't come with MagSafe
You're
charging.
correct. It does not have MagSafe. It has
Well,
wireless charging, but it does not have the magnet to suck it in. And it's slower. The wireless charging is not as fast as the MagSafe charging.
One of the things, though, if you get a case that is MagSafe, that will enable the MagSafe function on the phone.
Right, the magnet being in the case, but it's still not as fast as the full MagSafe.
No. I think it's 7.5 watts versus 15.
What was the brand of the case that he was touting there? I didn't get it.
I don't know. I didn't pay attention to that.
Well, you can watch that again. It's the last video on there.
I think he said ESR.
And the Apple cases now, the fine woven cases are gone. They're selling new cases, they're silicone. Now, no leather.
I mean, MagSafe, that's like one of the greatest inventions of mankind, like fire and the invention of wheel or something like that. Don't tell me they couldn't put a couple of crummy magnets on the back of that thing.
Well, it still works if you just set it on a magnetic charger. It still works. It just doesn't slap itself on powerfully like the real MagSafe does.
Oh,
it still works. It's just induction, it's like your electric toothbrush. And that's been around for decades. It's just there's a coil in there that interacts with the charging coil, and they put the fancy name called Qi on there, and it acts like a transformer, but through magnetic excitation, which develops voltage that then is groomed through the circuitry in the charger to go from AC to DC, and on and on and on. But it's just a simple, very basic induction charger.
So if you have that case, then you have nothing to worry about, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you don't even really need the case. Like my friend in Lafayette, I bought her a little round one that lays flat, and she just sets her phone on the thing. She has the old SE that doesn't support MagSafe, but she sets it on there and it charges the phone. She puts it on when she goes to bed at night and takes it off in the morning. Doesn't matter that it's even slow.
Yeah.
Well, they probably couldn't fit it in at a decent cost.
Probably.
Well, to cut something, it's got some stuff that isn't in this 16. It's cheaper. One camera. But they changed a lot. It's not a replacement for the SE. It's not a small, cheap phone. It's a less expensive 16. That's why they changed the name.
Yeah.
So that this is their cheapest phone. So it'll probably come down in price, next year or two. The question is, are they going to make it now? Will there be a 16E for several years, like the SE went on for years? Or will every year they have a 17E and an 18E, a cheaper version of whatever?
That's what Leo Laporte was saying, that he thinks it's going to be a cycle now, that spring will be the low end phone, and fall will be the other line.
I can imagine that, and you know, when the iPad cycled last time, it made a big leap, but it was more $100 more expensive, and that lasted a year, and then they dropped the price. So maybe that hopefully they'll do that with this, so they'll have a $500 phone again. It was totally a shock with the price. Everybody was okay. The SE was $429, and everybody said, "Well, it's going to go to 500 because it's going to have all this stuff." An SE was 128 of memory was 479, so it's really $130 increase over the same memory size that the SE was. But you know,
my advice to my friends who are thinking about it is wait until September when the 17 comes out, and then get yourself a 16 at a good price.
yeah, wait till it's going to come down in time. They need a cheaper phone. I mean, that's not an entry level $600. Is not that's a lot when people were paying $429.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a major increase. The other thing is, a lot of people didn't like likes the little phone, but then they made the mini. They made the 12 mini and the 13 mini, and they didn't sell very well. So they discontinued
and it has the new Apple cell phone chip.
Yeah, they didn't mention that it has the Apple modem in it instead of the Qualcomm modem, the first phone with that in there. So that makes the battery life is incredible. Because it's big, has a big battery, and the Apple modem uses way less power. So the battery life is something crazy, like 24 hours or something ridiculous. So
I still like the smaller form factor.
Right, a lot of people do. But that's gone. They'll never make one again. This is the way it's going to be.
Well, you know, I have an 11, and I haven't used all these features on here, so I don't know. I mean, this is just an 11, so it's not a 5G or anything, and it's a 5G modem, right? I mean, on that 16E.
Yeah, but it's not the super fast 5G. The next phone, then 17, will have a better Apple modem. All the phones are going to have the Apple modem in there now. This is the first one. It's like it's not the super fast high speed 5G.
And super fast is one thing I experienced today, and this is I don't know what's happening in my neighborhood or just my equipment here. I'm getting all this ready, and believe it or not, all of a sudden something just comes down to a crawl. I run the speed test. I'm getting 47 megabits per second. It's like, what's going on here? And then couldn't find anything wrong. And 30 minutes later, it just shot right back up. It's like I was going to call and leave text saying, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but it writes itself up and it's working as it should be right now. So thanks to the not dependable internet speed. But so I guess this is going to be one of those starter phones people get. Anyway, if no one's got any more questions, it's time for a question and answer session. So just let's start asking for questions.
Okay, you can stop your share and I'll stop the recording and start a new one. Okay, so we're going to stop this recording. This will be on YouTube for the public. And the general Q&A is only available to DVMUG members. You'll be able to get the link on the BBS. See you in the next session.